Okay, 7.5 day one, we're solving rational equations. These are equations with fractions because rational normally just means fractions. Okay, so we're going to do two methods. For the first one, we're going to solve by cross multiplying. We are going to state the domain because we can't get extraneous solutions. Okay, so first thing, let's state the domain. For rational functions, we look in the denominator. If there is an x in the denominator, we do not want that denominator to turn into a zero. So in this case, x cannot be zero. For the second fraction, there's an 11 at the bottom. There's no variable at the bottom, so that does not affect the domain in any way. Okay, now the first method is cross multiplying. This only works when you have a fraction equal to a fraction. If there's a fraction equal to a fraction, I can cross multiply, meaning I'm going to go diagonally and multiply. So 5 times 11 is 55. This equals, if I were to multiply in the opposite diagonal way, so in this way, if I do x times 2, I get 2x. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and solve this. What do? Divide by 2? I'm going to rewrite that. Okay, so x equals 55 divided by 2. Okay, so when I get to my answer, I could have an extraneous solution. The only way I do so is if I get an answer that's not in my domain. So it says x can't be 0. That's fine because I got that x equals 55 over 2. So my answer is x equals 55 over 2. Okay, let's try B. We're going to also cross multiply. Before I do so, I'm going to check my domain. For my first fraction, I have x minus 1 in the denominator, which means that x cannot be 1 because it will make the denominator 0. For my second fraction, there's also an x in the denominator. So if x plus 2 is equal to 0, that means x would be negative 2. So x cannot be negative 2. Those are the two x values that are excluded from our answers. Okay, cross multiply up. I'm going to do this times this. So that's 5 times x plus 2 equals, and then I'm going to multiply in the opposite direction. So 3 times the x minus 1. And if you distribute while you multiply, that's fine with me. Okay, so I'm going to distribute 5x plus 10 equals 3x minus 3. Okay, and then do your algebra however you do your algebra. What am I going to do? I'm going to minus the 3x over. And I'm going to move the 10 over. And I'm going to divide by 2, and I get negative 13 over 2. And then I'm going to pause because this was a rational equation. Check my domain. X can't be 1, and x can't be negative 2. That's okay because I got that x equals negative 13 over 2. Okay, let's do 2 more cross multiplying. Then we'll do a second method. Okay, let me state the domain real quick though. Okay, for the first fraction, I have x plus 3 in the denominator, so x cannot be negative 3. For the second fraction, I have 2x minus 5. So if I were to solve that, I would plus 5. I would divide by 2. So x can't be 5 over 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. So if I multiply this way, I have 1 times 2x minus 5. And then if I multiply in the opposite diagonal way, I have 4 times x plus 3. And again, if you want to distribute while you cross multiply, that is fine with me. Okay, let's solve this. I'm going to move the 4x over to here, which is going to give me negative 2x. And then I might as well move the 5 at the same time. So that's going to leave me 17 on the right side. If I divide by negative 2, I get x equals 17 over negative 2. And then I'm going to check my domain. X can't be negative 3. That's fine. X can't be 5 over 2. Also fine because I got 17 over negative 2. One more cross multiply. Okay, domain. X cannot be negative 3 and x cannot be 5. And I'm going to keep that in mind. Even if they don't tell me to state my domain, I have to respect my domain. Okay, so if I do x times x minus 5, I equal to the opposite direction. 3 times x plus 3 Okay, so x squared minus 5x equals 3x plus 9. This looks quadratic, so let's move everything to one side. I'm going to keep the x squared where it is because it's nice and positive. I'm going to move the 3x over. So that is negative 8x. And then I might as well minus the 9 over 2. Okay, hopefully this factors. X. To get negative 9, I could do 3 minus 3, which is 0. Nope, let's do 9 and 1. Negative 9, positive 1. So I got x equals 9, and x equals negative 1 is my two answers, but let me check. X can't be negative 3. That's okay. X can't be 5. Also fine, because neither of those were the answers I got. Okay, that's the first method. Let's try the second method. Okay, for the second method, I am still going to state the domain just to make sure I catch any extraneous solutions, but I'm going to solve by multiplying each side by the least common denominator. Okay, domain first. Okay, there's an x in the denominator, so x can't be 0. The other denominator is 3. There's no variable in it, so it's fine. Okay, so I need to figure out the least common denominator. Okay, so I have x and I have 3. What is the least common denominator for x and 3? It is 3x, so let's times everything by 3x. Actually, it says multiply each side, but I'm going to do the whole thing at the same time. Okay, I distribute the 3x to everything. It's allowed as long as you do it to everything in the whole equation. So I'm going to do 5 times 3x is 15x, and it's still over x. Okay, if I do 2 times 3x, I get 6x. It's still over 3. And if I do 4 times 3x, I get 12x. Now, if I've done it correctly, the fractions should cancel. So 15x over x is 15. 6x divided by 3 is 2x. Okay, now it looks better. Let me go ahead and solve. I'm going to move the x's to the right. So 15 equals 14x. If I divide by 14, I get 15 divided by 14. Check your domain real quick. X can't be 0. That's fine. I got x is 15 over 14. Let's try the next one. We use the least common denominator when there's multiple fractions on either side. Cross multiplying only works when there is exactly one fraction on each side. Okay, oh wait, what's my domain? X can't be 0? That's the only variable I see at the bottom. Sometimes they don't make you state it. Even if you don't state it, you have to respect the domain. So keep it in mind. So x can't be 0. What's the least common denominator for 2, 5, and x? Least common denominator for 2 and 5 is 10. But I also need an x, so let's times everything by 10x. Okay, I'm going to distribute to everything. 1, 2, 3, all 4 terms. Okay, so for the first one, 1 times 10x is 10x, but it's over 2. 4 times 10x is 40x, but it's over 5. 3 times 10x is 30x. 1 times 10x is 10x over x. Now, if we've done it right, the fractions will go away. Okay, our fractions are gone, so now we're just going to solve it in whichever algebraic way you see. That should be a plus sign. Okay, what should I do? Minus 30x over. So I get negative 17x equals 10, and then if I divide by negative 17, I get 10 over negative 17. Check your domain. X can't be 0, which is fine because I got 10 over negative 17. And I get fractions a lot because if I didn't have a fraction, I might not need a fraction. Okay, 2 more. Okay, domain. X can't be negative 4. Okay, least common denominator. The only denominators are the x plus 4 and the x plus 4. So the common denominator must be x plus 4. Okay, times everything by x plus 4. Okay, if I times the first term by x plus 4, I have 2x times x plus 4. I'm not going to distribute it just like on the complex fractions because normally the factor will cancel. Plus 3 times x plus 4 equals 5 times x plus 4 over x plus 4. Okay, now this cancels and this cancels. If you notice they're canceling, you could skip that step and go to the next one. So 2x equal, no, not equals, plus 3x plus 12 equals 5. So 5x plus 12 equals 5. I'm going to minus the 12. I get negative 7. I'm going to divide by 5. I get negative 7 over 5. I'm going to check my domain. X can't be negative 4, which is fine because I got x is negative 7 over 5. Okay, last one. What's my domain? X can't be positive 2. Okay, what's the least common denominator? This is a denominator, this is a denominator. They're already common, they're both x minus 2. Let's times every single thing by x minus 2. Okay, now I'm going to show the next step. I'm going to write it out. Some of you will be comfortable skipping this step and going to the next one. Okay, I'm going to do x times x minus 2, but it's over x minus 2. And then I have 2 times x minus 2, but it's over x minus 2. Okay, what it cancels, cancels, cancels. So we're not going to have any fractions anymore. So x squared minus 2x plus x equals 2. X squared minus x, well, let's move the 2 over. Minus 2 equals 0. Let's factor it. What do we times to get negative 2? It's got to be a 2 and a 1. Negative 2, positive 1. So I get x equals 2, x equals negative 1. Let me double check my domain. Okay, it says x can't be 2. Oh shoot, I got x equals 2. But the domain says x can't be 2. So even though I solved it correctly, it's actually that x can't be 2, and that's an extraneous solution. Meaning it's an extra answer that doesn't work in the equation. So that's an extraneous solution, but x equals negative 1 is still a valid solution. So I only got one answer, and that answer is x equals negative 1.